Today, we're going to dive deep into a crisis that really pushed the United States and Iran right to the edge of all-out war. We'll break down the high-stakes military and political chess game that literally had the entire world holding its breath. All right, so to really get our heads around this, we're going to look at it from 5 different angles. First up, the impossible choice facing the U.S. president at the time. Then we'll zoom out to see why the entire region was on edge. After that, we'll get into the massive American military buildup, pinpoint the one target it was all aimed at, and finally, we'll tackle that huge question. Just how close did we really get to war? Okay, so let's start with Section 1, Trump's dilemma. I mean, he was truly caught between a rock and a hard place, facing a choice between 2 incredibly costly and frankly terrible outcomes. And this right here, this lays out the political trap perfectly. On one hand, you try to de-escalate, maybe negotiate, and you risk being seen as weak, like you're surrendering. But on the other hand, you escalate the attack, and you could get bogged down in a long, bloody, and super expensive ground war that could drag on for years. You can see why there were no easy answers here. And, the pressure was really starting to mount back home. Just a month into this thing, the initial plan, whatever it was, wasn't working. Instead of a quick fix, the White House was looking at gas prices going up and approval ratings going down, which made that already difficult choice even more urgent. Now for our second section. It's so important to remember this wasn't happening in some kind of bubble. The opposition to American military action was seriously heating up across the entire Middle East, and yeah, even inside allied countries. I mean, just look at Turkey. They're a NATO ally, right? But the public mood there was souring fast. There were these growing calls from the people to kick all U.S. troops out of the country. That puts a major strain on a critical alliance. And at the same time, you had these internal tensions just boiling over in other places. In Bahrain, the Shia community started taking to the streets, protesting against the monarchy. It just added this whole other layer of instability to a region that was already a tinderbox. This really shows you just how widespread the exhaustion with war was. Even in Israel, a key U.S. ally, the public was just tired. After 3 years of their own conflicts, there was absolutely no appetite for another huge war in their backyard. So, with all this pressure building up at home and across the region, what did the U.S. do? Well, it made its next move, a massive show of force. And this brings us to Section 3, America's war machine gathers. A huge military buildup was signaling that this whole crisis was about to enter a very dangerous new phase. A really powerful symbol of this was the arrival of the USS Tripoli in the Arabian Sea. Now, this isn't just any old ship, it's an amphibious assault ship. Think of it as a floating fortress, basically a mobile military base, designed to launch invasions from the sea. Its presence sent a very, very clear message. A ground war was suddenly a real possibility. And the scale of this thing is just immense. We're talking about a single ship that's almost 3 football fields long. It can carry some of the most advanced fighter jets in the world, those versatile Osprey aircraft, and over 2,000 soldiers. Its entire job is to project power from the sea onto land. This isn't a ship, it's a mobile invasion force. But it wasn't just happening at sea. On the ground, the numbers were just swelling. A staggering 20,000 paratroopers from the elite 82nd Airborne Division, that's America's premier rapid response force, were sent to the Middle East, basically ready to go at a moment's notice. And then, backing them up, were 5,000 Marines, the specialists in the exact kind of sea-to-land assaults that the USS Tripoli was built for. You can see how all the chess pieces were being moved into place for a potential ground invasion. So, the big question is, where was all this military might pointed? Well, that brings us to Section 4, the Kharg Island gamble. It really looks like U.S. planners had one very specific and very strategic target in mind. So, the target was Kharg Island. Why there? Because it's the heart of Iran's oil exports, pretty much the lifeblood of its economy. Military strategists basically saw 2 ways to take it: a really fast attack from the air with paratroopers, or a slower, more methodical assault from the sea with naval forces. But as you're about to see, neither option was going to be a walk in the park. Okay, just imagine trying to drop paratroopers onto that island. You'd be flying directly into a wall of Iranian air defenses. We're talking shoulder-fired missiles, sophisticated surface-to-air guided missile systems, all of it designed to shoot down helicopters and transport planes. On top of all that, they had no real idea of the enemy's true strength on the ground. It was a huge gamble. So, what about the sea route? Well, that was just as dangerous. First, the entire naval force would have to sail through the Strait of Hormuz, which is a tiny choke point that Iran controls, and where a huge chunk of the world's oil passes through. Then, they'd have to navigate the waters around the island itself, which were reportedly filled with sea mines. And even if they got past all that, they'd be staring down a fortified coastline with Iranian soldiers dug in and waiting for them. And as the military planners were weighing these absolutely deadly options, Iran sent a chillingly clear message to the world. They warned that any American soldiers who dared set foot on their soil would, and I quote, return in coffins. Which brings us right to our final section, where we put all these pieces together. Section 5, on the brink of war. This takes us full circle, right back to the president's initial dilemma. Only now we have a much clearer and, frankly, a much grimmer picture of the deadly stakes involved. So when you look at all of it, the political pressure, the regional instability, this massive military buildup, and these incredibly risky invasion plans, it all boils down to one question. Was this a calculated plan, a show of force designed to prevent a bigger war, or was this just a reckless gamble that could have easily spiraled into a total disaster? That right there is the question at the very heart of the standoff.